This Formula One 2024 Win Totals edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by KUTT. KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and legal in 40 states. Download KUTT today in the App Store. That's KUTT, and use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Gotta be honest with everybody, I don't feel like I hear that theme song nearly enough in my life anymore. Welcome again to the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb, I'm Rod Villagomez, and as we trudge our way through the Formula One offseason, again, Cody, I swear to God, I love that theme, and I wish I could hear it more, and I'm counting down the days until we do it every week again.
Oh, it's too far away still, Rod. It's man, it's not like NASCAR. We're under a month. We're getting close. It's almost here. F1, you gotta wait a little bit longer. It's not too much longer. It's, we got some testing at the end of February, and then of course the Bahrain weekend is kind of the first weekend in March there. But we're getting closer. It's almost here. Hey, we've got a plethora of futures to talk about, which is awesome. Obviously, we touched on the championship odds last episode. Now we're coming back with the race wins, which we had planned on doing the last episode, but we talked too long, which, surprise, we tend to do that at points.
Every time we jump on the mic, we always go, yeah, you know what? This one probably won't be that long. And then 50 minutes later, we're like, oh.
Said it before we started this one, so this is going to be an hour episode anyways.
You know what? We've already trained our audience to appreciate a full hour of whatever it is we're talking about. And we're podcast listeners too, and we will stick through to the end, even if it takes us a couple of sitting sessions to do it. So we applaud you guys for doing it as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah, like Cody said, we will actually talk about win totals. However, I almost feel like it is going to be a short episode because all we can just say is, I'm not even looking at Max's yet, but whatever Max's is, you take the over, everybody else take the under, and just call it a day.
I don't know if that's the case. It can't last forever, Rod. There might be some solid value out here.
And that's a good preface to this episode as well. As you know, if you're an F1 fan at all, or if this is your first time joining the F1 Gambling Podcast, first of all, welcome. And you are going to hear one name in particular quite often, and that's Max Verstappen. When you talk about F1, especially over the last couple of seasons, right, where he's been the champion, he's won almost every single race. He's come from the back to the front, to the front to the back. I mean, just Max Verstappen has done some incredible things over the course of the last couple of seasons. So when we talk about F1, a lot of times we're tongue in cheek talking about, well, it's Max's season. But again, these race car drivers, they're all professionals and they all want to do their best. And these race teams don't want Red Bull to stay on top forever. But we always like to joke it. Hey, Max Verstappen is going to run away and win 30 races this season, even though there's not that many races to win. And it almost comes with a grain of truth, right? You got to take a step back and look at what he's done and maybe put a little bit of emphasis on the fact that he's going to win a lot of races. The books obviously think he's going to win a ton of races. But again, anything can happen. This is racing. This is, a season that Max Verstappen may not finish for whatever reason. Who knows? Could be injury, could be whatever. You just never know in racing what each week is going to bring, even though the last few weeks or the last few seasons, you've known what to expect with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, that's why they play the game, right? Because it's not always a sure thing. And yes, Max has dominated the last couple of seasons. Like we talked about on the championship episode, as far as the odds, he's a very heavy favorite, right? He's minus 300. It's more in some places. But that doesn't mean there's not value on betting in someone else because of the what ifs, because of the just in cases. And we laid out our case over there for that. And it's going to be the same thing on here for this. There's any number of things that can go wrong for Max's season. And even the last couple of years, he's not won all of the races. Other drivers have still won races, and the books have adjusted to that, right? Lewis going into last season, his win total was at 5. I have not looked through all these win totals yet, and I don't know what Lewis's is, but I'm guessing it's not set at 5 again, right? Because they've adjusted. And so there's going to be opportunities to get in here. Max is not going to win every single race. We saw it even last year. And what he's done, I mean, again, just like any sport, really, in any racing sport across any series, whether it's your local track, there's going to be spurts where one guy is just dominating or finds something and nobody can stop him or beat him. And they throw him in a different car and he tweaks one thing and he still beats everybody. And we've seen it in NASCAR and we've seen it across IndyCar, and in F1 it's happened before, right? Guys like the Schumacher and everyone else in the past have had their dominating times, but it won't last forever. Now, does Max come out and win 15, 18 races again? It could happen, right? But he gets caught up in wrecks. He has electrical problems. He has mechanical problems. They have pit problems. There's still plenty of things that can go wrong. We saw it most recently at Vegas, right? Things went wrong, and he almost didn't win that race. Well, it worked out for him. He ends up winning it. But there was things in there that went wrong, that it's not always going to work out in his favor. Accidents happen, right? Even the best in the world can't always avoid them. He's not going to win every race. And that's not even accounting for other teams making a huge step, making big gains. Second-year drivers like Piastri taking big steps, or McLaren taking a big step. Mercedes figures something out and Lewis is right back there with him. Whatever the case may be, even though it's probably going to be very heavy on Max, it's probably going to be a lot of wins. Actually, I haven't seen his number either yet. I haven't looked at it. So interested to see what it is, but I'm sure it's fairly high. But it's not just, Max isn't going to win every single race. Some of these other guys are going to have opportunities, and the numbers might be right to bet the under on some people if the books are a little higher on them and you think it is going to be more on Max. So I'm excited to talk through it. And again, still plenty of ways. And like we talk about during the season, sure, Max might win a lot and he's minus 350 to win races. Doesn't mean you can't find other ways to make money on F1. That's what we're here for.
And that is exactly what we will do. We will talk to you about these win totals. But first, let me tell you about DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL playoffs. It's bringing you an offer that'll help make the playoffs electrifying. New customers can bet $5 on any game and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. You want to know what you're looking at right now? I see Cleveland and Houston right now, where Cleveland is a 3-point favorite against Houston. We've got Kansas City 4-point favorites over Miami. And then we've got the Buffalo Bills 10-point favorites over the Steelers. Elsewhere, you got the Cowboys minus 7.5 favorites over the Packers. And then 3.5, the line for the Detroit Lions, who are the favorites over the Rams. And again, it's a matter of how much fun you're going to have betting on all of these playoff games, because that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes the playoffs that much more interesting. So head down there right now, and while you're at it, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code SGP. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. Crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for gambling. Call 888-7897-777 or visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 186 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. You hate buying tickets. I hate buying tickets, especially last minute tickets when you don't know for sure whether or not you can go to the event until maybe sometimes the day of, sometimes a couple of hours before, and then you're stuck trying to get gouged by every single ticket place out there to buy those tickets. one place will not gouge you. That's Game Time. You must download the Game Time app now to alleviate the stress from all of your last-minute ticket purchases, and not just last minute. Even if you know a month in advance, you're still going to get the best price guaranteed by Game Time, because they are going to give you the Game Time guarantee. When you buy on Game Time, your ticket's going to be on time and authentic. You get all the lower fees, all the best prices. Not to mention, it's made for your mobile phone, which means everything goes to the app. Regardless of what happens, you're not fishing through your email for the tickets. Maybe it went to spam. Maybe you put in the wrong email. Nope, don't worry about it. Tickets are right there on the Game Time app. Not to mention, they're going to give you a picture of the seat in which you will be sitting and enjoying the event that you're going to. All of that stuff is stuff you do not want to miss out on. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. It's perfect for the NFL playoffs. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CFBX for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I almost feel, Cody, as if we should start at the top and work our way down, but I don't know. Maybe we should wait until the end to get to Verstappen's number. What do you think? Should we delay the what do you call it, and or just start off with it?
Yeah, let's save Max for the end.
You want to save Max for the end? Okay, that's fine. Then let's do this. Let us start with the top of these books here. They have one Carlos Sainz. His win total is set at 1.5. The one or the over for this one is at plus 240. The under is at minus 300. Carlos Sainz
starting us off with one we can't bet on.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Carlos Sainz last year won one race, right? And over the course of the last few seasons, it hasn't been much better for Carlos Sainz as far as winning races is concerned. So again, it's one of those situations where you juice the under so much that you can't. Carlos Sainz has won 2 races over the last 2 seasons, and in his career, does he really take that much of a jump up in to win 2 races this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you have to bet on one side, you're just going to take the over because it's plus 240, and you shouldn't pay minus 300 on a future. But I don't want anything to do with this one. I mean, maybe Ferrari finds something and they take that step and Sainz all of a sudden. But even if Ferrari finds something, it's going to be Leclerc that you're going to see more of the gain from, most likely. So why would you not set this at 1/2? I mean, it's not set it at 1/2, and I don't know. I don't.
It says,
come on, Caesars, do a little better on that. It's like it makes you not want to bet on it because it's not great either direction.
What's funny is that it really forced us into just making noises as opposed to actually analyzing it. Ladies and gentlemen, you come here for the hard-hitting analysis and grunt. If you're caveman, you understood exactly what that was.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, yeah, again, if you're going to lay a little something on this, take the over, and it'll give you something to sweat during the season maybe, and you're getting a number, but just don't stay away from this one.
I mean, the books really are baiting you to the over on this one. I mean, plus 240.
Yeah, but even, I mean, 1.5, like there's nothing. I don't know. I mean, put it at, because even at 1/2, like it's not a guaranteed thing that he wins a race. And, if it's minus 130 over or something, then like, and you could do it. I don't know what you do for the under, I guess. I don't know, but I don't like this one.
and contextually speaking, though, too, I mean, last season we talked about the fact that he had a win, but he only had 3 podiums last year. I mean, he was coming off of a 9 podium season the year before, so that gives you a lot of hope. Maybe if this is 1.5 last year, I'm entertaining the thought, but right. This year I don't know. And like you said, and let's just go ahead and move over to Leclerc, because if anybody's going to take that step forward, I think it could be Leclerc. Now, his number is set at 1.5 as well, but the books have both sides set at minus 115, so it doesn't matter.
That makes
the under.
That makes no sense.
How many races did Leclerc win last season, Cody?
He did win 0.
Exactly.
I believe. So
exactly.
I get that
this year,
but why is he minus 115 over, and Sainz is well, I guess Sainz is plus 240, but I mean, I would be much more inclined to take Leclerc over at 1.5 than Sainz for sure, because we know that Leclerc can do it. He's done it before. We know he's kind of the A driver of Ferrari. Again, if Ferrari finds something, if they stay out of their own way, they can compete. And down the stretch last season, right? McLaren obviously showed a lot of ability, and Lando was getting a lot of seconds to Max, but you go to like Las Vegas, and Leclerc was good there. And Sainz, I think, was good there even too. And they competed with them. Ferrari showed a little bit of something. If they take a little bit more of a step, I'm kind of intrigued to take the over on the 1.5 here. I think this one is set correctly. I think this is set properly. And it's minus 115 either way. So it's, now if you think Max is just going to dominate again, then probably the thing you would want to do is take his over, depending on the number, and just go under on everyone that it makes sense on, right? Sainz at minus 300, no, but Leclerc at minus 115, it would make sense to go under. But I think I'm actually going to lean to the over on 1.5 here for Charles, just because, man, he can do it, and he's been close. I know we didn't get the wins last season, but I think he had some opportunities. I think if Ferrari can take another step, if they can stay out of their own way, which again, that's the biggest problem with them. They're still Ferrari. They're going to get back there someday. We know how good of a driver Charles is. So yeah, give me Charles Leclerc over 1.5 minus 115.
Shaw's been in a car for 6 years in F1. He has more than one win in 2 seasons, including that 2022 season where it was really him and Max for the most part. And Shaw managed to get 3 wins in that season. So not far removed from it. And like you said, I think if there's one Ferrari driver that's going to do it, I think it's going to be Shaw. So you're right. I think this one makes more sense to take the over. I wish the price was a little better, but I think the books understand that this is the right move on the over.
And I think this seems like such an overcorrection. I'm trying to pull up. I wrote an article last year in January with the F1 win totals. If I can find it. Here we go. Win totals. See what, because I feel like Charles would have been at way more than.
Well, if
he was
Lewis
at 2.5,
he was at 2.5.
He was only at 2.5, but obviously he didn't win any, so the under easily hit. But so they only dropped him 1. But I think it is a little bit just of an overcorrection. Not that he should be at 2.5. I think it's the right number, but I don't think that, we need to look at it like, oh, he didn't win last year, he's not going to win this year, because I think for him pulling 2 wins out wouldn't be that far away. We again, Vegas, like very close to getting a win there. So I think that he could do it.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it would be tough even as a book to sort of handicap anybody, honestly, because when you look at last season, it wasn't as if only 3 drivers won a race.
Right.
So, I mean, as a bookmaker, what do? Do you set everybody at a half a win and just sort of say good luck everybody after that? Or are you trying to get, I applaud them for trying to actually set realistic lines, but at the same time, it's got to be tough.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because if Max just comes out and dominates again, and they're hedging their bet a little bit with that by having him, at minus 300 to win and making it almost impossible to bet him long term. But yeah, I think 1.5 is the correct number for Charles, because I think he'll probably win a race, right? You kind of got to give him, he's probably going to win one. Does he get that second one? I think is the biggest question. So I think 1.5 is a solid number for him.
I concur. 6 podiums for Leclerc last year, 11 the year before that. So definitely someone to keep your eye on. We'll tell you some more drivers to keep your eye on. But first, let me tell you about KUTT. KUTT is a peer-to-peer social betting platform that's U.S.-based and legal in 40 states. What's KUTT? It's a peer-to-peer social betting, and it is a new and better way to bet. Bet directly against your friends or other users on sports, politics, pop culture, and other events with verifiable outcomes. It's tons of fun. It's got social features that are going to give you the feel of a betting social network. I'm telling you right now, you always want to settle those bar bets, right? You always want to say, aha, well, guess what? I definitely would bet you. This is a better way to do it than try to chase down your friend for that $5 that he owes you or that beer that he owes you because you won that bet. Now it's settled on the app. You put your money in, somebody's going to walk away with it. Definitely a good way to do it. Plus, KUTT offers a lower VIG and fully customizable odds. How many of you guys want to create your own bets? I'm telling you right now, this is exactly the way to do it. KUTT handles all the payment side of things. So like I said, you never got to chase anybody down for money. Plus there's social features, group chats, betting leaderboards, head-to-head history, user profiles. So look, now you just can't stand there and say, oh, but I've won the most bets. Now you can back it up. Now you just show everybody on the app and say, I own you, and this is my stats to back it up. So you definitely have the bragging rights for that. Plus, there's rewards. You can get cash back every single time you bet against your friends or other users. Download KUTT today in the App Store. Listen, I may even set up some bets, so you can go check me out too on KUTT, and we'll go head to head against each other, and we'll figure something out this week. I got nothing to cheer for. My Niners are on a break, so I got to have some action in the game, right? So better it be you than the books, I think, at this point. So download KUTT today in the App Store. That's KUTT. Use promo code SGPN for a 10% deposit bonus. That's KUTT, promo code SGPN. I'll tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside of your favorite fantasy players all season long. NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. Keep up on us all season long. We're going to give you some F1 plays that we love on Underdog Fantasy. And of course, if you follow us on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, we're definitely going to give you plenty of NASCAR plays on Underdog as it pops up, especially for the Daytona 500, which is going to be so much fun. And then, of course, when we start in Bahrain, that'll be a lot of fun as well. So watch along, make your picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog's going to double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. All right, well, we are skipping Max, so let's head over to the McLaren camp, and we'll talk about Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri, this is a funny one. His over-under set at a half a win, which rightfully so, but his over is set at -200 and the under is set at +165. Come on now.
You're killing us. I really want to go over because I think that Piastri gets a win this season. Oh man, I don't know if it's this year or if it's next year, but when McLaren fully figures it out and Piastri takes off, watch out because Piastri is very, very talented. He's going to be very good. Obviously, the books are very high on him to win a race. You can take his under +165 just because he's not won before. And that's not necessarily a bad bet. I would rather not spend -200, obviously, on a future like this. But I would love to have him over a half. Like, again, this is where we need the little slider tool. We need the alternates, right? Because give me 1.5 at plus money, I might even consider that just because when Oscar figures it out, I think he's going to figure it out. It's, for our NASCAR listeners, it's kind of a Ty Gibbs situation. We talk about Ty Gibbs and so much talent there in a good ride. Once it clicks, it's going to click. And that's the same thing with Oscar here in F1. So much talent. He's in a good ride. Once it fully clicks, it's going to click. We already saw last year how impressive he was, how impressive Lando was. I'm very, very excited to see what he does going forward. Am I going to bet his over at -200? No, because that's too high of a price to pay. But do I want to go as under? Not really, because I do think he wins a race. So a little unfortunate. Again, maybe if you get an alternate total here, if you get +1 or, over 1.5 at some plus money, then maybe we'd consider something like that. But again, another one you're probably just going to stay away from just because the number's not super great.
It was long about the British Grand Prix is where he started to turn it on. In fourth place there. Hungary, he finished in fifth. Bad day at Spa, but turned it around at the Danish Grand Prix, finished ninth. And then, seventh, third, second, a couple of 8th and 10th place finishes and 6th. And when you start talking about putting guys in McLaren alongside of the big six, I mean, we always talked about last season how it was Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull, and then you threw Aston Martin in there early in the season, but then it became Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, and McLaren. So and most of the reason of that was because of Norris and Piastri. Norris obviously making his strides in there, but Piastri wasn't too far behind. Like I said, he ended up having those 3 podiums rather, or 2 podiums. But at the same time, he was just outside of the top 6, sometimes inside of the top 6, which when you talk about the drivers that occupy those top 6s, that's pretty damn good considering, how young of a driver he is and how much we think he's going to improve. I'm with you on disappointed that it is a half. I mean, at the very least, drop it down a little bit. If you think that he's going to win a race, I get your hedging with minus 200. And the under on this one feels like the right move anyways, because yeah, he can win a race, but there's so many obstacles standing in the way to not win a race that it's like,
Yeah.
the only way I would lean on this one, I would tell you is to put money on the under. I wouldn't tell you to lay 200 on the over because that's too much.
And I think that, again, back to the point of if Max dominates again like he has, the unders on guys you're getting plus money on might not be a bad move at all because, again, do we think he'll probably win a race? Yes, but he's not won one yet. Like you mentioned, he's only got 2 podium finishes. So it's not like he's just knocking down the door of he's going to win any day. Like, I think he can for sure, but I think you've got a great point of it's definitely not a guaranteed thing. So again, I think if you're going to lean away, it probably has to be the under, mostly because of the number. But again, this is the type of bet where you start out cashing right away until you're not. If he wins, of course, but you don't have to reach a number. You're already at the number. You just have to hope they don't go over it. So, yeah, I think under would probably be the way to go, but another one I don't really want to bet on.
Well, and so if you really want to do something with the McLaren driver, Lando Norris is set up right now at 1.5. The over here is at minus 130. The under is at plus 100. So even money for the under. And honestly, listen, if I were to do anything on it, I would take the under on this one and just leave Piastri alone, because this one seems a lot easier to fathom, because if Lando wins a race, that's great. I only think he's going to win one race all season long if he does.
It seems like a much tougher path for Lando to get to 2 wins than for Oscar to just get to 1 win. So I fully in agreement with you here. Minus 130 on the over, absolutely not. I think that's kind of ridiculous for a guy that's never won before, right? He doesn't have any wins in F1. And so, again, while they've been close and he's been second to Max time and time again, right? It's almost starting to look like a Chase Elliott syndrome over in the Cups. They're like a second. He finally is going to get a win, right? It's going to be a big thing when he wins. But again, going into the season, not knowing where everyone's at, has McLaren taken the next step? They kind of came out of not nowhere last year, but they really cemented themselves in the conversation with the bigger teams last year. Do they continue to take that step? Everyone seems to think they do. The books here obviously seem to think they will. But what if they don't, right? That's a big question mark. Hasn't gotten a win. Much, much easier for me to talk myself into the under 1.5 on Lando here. And it's just one of those things, and we talk about it a lot on the NASCAR side of things and stuff, is you got to prove it to me first, right? And right now, what I know is Max wins a lot of races, and what I know is Lando's never won. And so you put those two things together, and you give me even money to go on the under, and you're setting it at 1.5. Again, it's not a half. If it's at a half, a little tougher, because does he sneak out a win somewhere? Maybe. But 2 wins, that's a much bigger step. So for me, this is a much easier under on Lando at even money for minus 1 or for under 1.5 wins. Then this is probably, of the ones we've talked about so far, my favorite bet that I would be more willing to go place right this minute is the Lando under.
And if you're taking the over, if you're going where the books are trying to lead you on the overs on these ones as well, and you're giving 3 wins to McLaren, and that just, I don't think that's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not something that you saw only one other team other than Red Bull.
We didn't even want to give Ferrari 3 wins. I mean, right? Because so getting McLaren to 3 wins seems like a pretty tall task too. It's, again, Max isn't just going to show up flat this year and not win any races. He's still going to win probably double-digit race. I mean, I'd be surprised if it's less than double-digit races, right? So, you just credit him with half the races basically, and then you've only got these other races to fill in which case he'll probably win a lot of the other half of the races too. So you've only got so many to allocate out here. So yeah, I think that the under on this one is the proper way to go.
Yeah, I'm not looking at a huge. Granted, it will probably be a good points year for McLaren, but as far as wins are concerned, you got too many other guys to contend with that are hungry, a la Mercedes, a la Ferrari, and I'm sure Aston Martin wants to get their ass back in gear as well. So
yeah, and another thing to go against Lando too is eventually, if these two guys stick around with McLaren, Lando's not going to be the top guy. It's going to be Piastri because he is the younger guy. He's the talented guy. Like, he's going to take the front seat. So if Piastri starts the season early, a little bit hotter, he's going to get the benefit of everything from McLaren. They're going to push him harder, and that's where it could flip easily to be an Oscar's the top guy, Lando's right there with him or whatever. But in F1, you've generally got a guy that's more the top guy and the number one guy on the team. And I don't think it's going to take very long for that switch to flip to Oscar. If it flips early in the season, it's going to be even harder for Lando to get to 2.
Agreed. All right, we'll get to some more drivers, but let me tell you about Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytic platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer tool. You're going to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark. Join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off of your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, well, let's talk about some of those Mercedes drivers that we were talking about earlier. A couple of fellow British drivers in Lewis Hamilton, who I guess we can still say holds on to that top spot over there in Mercedes. I know Russell was kind of jockeying for it for a little while, but I think it's still Hamilton's until he decides to hang it up, which he has not already. But Lewis, you said it was set at what?
5.5 last
Oof.
year. Yeah.
That's insane.
Let's see what it was. And I think it was juiced.
It seems like it should have been.
He was minus 105 to the over and minus 110 to the under at 5.5 last year.
God bless America. Yeah, you did say hammer the under on that one. So
yeah,
that
was my favorite one.
Yeah, that was an easy one. And this one could be easy as well. 1.5 is what it's set at. So you can tell the drastic drop that the books were like, well, okay, we're gonna correct.
To shift it 4 races. That's a big shift. And you could maybe make the case they're overcorrecting because Max won so much, but that's 2 seasons in a row now that Lewis hasn't won a race. Mercedes wasn't super impressive last year. I mean, there wasn't really any point in the season where you felt like, okay, Mercedes is really starting to click. You go back to 2 seasons ago, and Russell really came on strong at the end, right? He wins a race late in the season, and I think he had, what did he finish in the top? Was it top 6, all but 2 races or something? I mean, just out. And so it was like, okay, Mercedes has shown something. Like, we didn't think Lewis was going to get to 5.5 wins, but I mean, under 1.5 at plus money again here. Like, I love you, Lewis, and he's done a lot. He's won a lot. I think we're still at nobody with over 300 wins or 300 starts has won a race. Again, Max is going to take away so much of it. It just, Mercedes hasn't looked like the Mercedes of old. Now, could Lewis come out and suddenly win 5 races, and would it really be super shocking? Oh my God. A little bit, yeah, because of how they've run the last couple of years, but it's Lewis Hamilton, it's Mercedes. Like, we've seen him win 7 titles, right? So it's nothing crazy. But yeah, as far as betting, I think you have to take the underside of this. Again, minus 140 on the over. Absolutely would not even consider that. But I really do like betting the under. This is very similar to Lando. Like, again, you can make the case that he can get to 2 wins because it's Lewis Hamilton. And I think that name value carries something. But the books are also thinking this name value carries something. And the last 2 years, he hasn't got it done. If he gets back to 1 more win, it's going to be like, is this the final time we see him at the top of the podium? So is he going to get to 2? That's a little bit of a taller task. Again, it's not like, wouldn't be super shocking if he won 2 races, but I'm definitely going on the under here, especially, again, getting the plus money side of things. I think it's definitely the way to go.
Yeah. So like you said, the under on this one, plus 110, the over at minus 140. If this is closer to last year's minus 105, I may want to.
And that's betting with your heart, though. Like, it just,
I know.
And that's, which I'm almost surprised that it's not a little bit lower on the over. They must be scared that he can win 2 races because they've got to juice that way. But man, it just feels like going to over is just betting with your heart because everybody wants to see it, right? And we miss Lewis being at the top, but he's not anymore. And gosh, Jimmy Johnson, we saw it, Rod. Like, you're a big fan and 7-time champion, and he won 5 in a row, and he absolutely dominated NASCAR for years. And they changed the formats to try and stop him, and nothing could stop him. And at the end of it, though, he didn't have a shot. He was never going to win races those last couple of seasons. He wasn't getting top 5s. He wasn't. It just, I don't think he made the playoffs in his last season. Like, it fell off. And again, Lewis is getting to that point where it's starting to fall off. Mercedes is missing a beat a little bit. So yeah, I think that I'm definitely taking the under on that. Actually, this is probably one that I will bet because, again, you're starting hitting this one plus money. If Max, wins a ton again, going to be even tougher for Lewis to get it done.
Lewis, 6 podiums last season after 9 the season before and 17 the season before that. I'm not one for regression, but those numbers.
And he had won, what was it, 15 seasons in a row or something that he won at least one race until the last 2, and it's really fallen off and hard to see it going no wins back up to 2 because it, again, could happen, but you've got to bet on the under, I think.
I agree. Let's turn our attention to his teammate. One already that I will tell you I'm staying away from altogether. George Russell, 1.5 is the number. The over is set at plus 205. The under at minus 250.
They're pretty sure on which way this one's going, aren't they?
I swear to you. I mean, honestly, and obviously we know George Russell did not win a race last year. In fact, he only had 2 podiums all season long. George Russell has just not been comfortable this season. 4 DNFs. He had more DNFs than he had podiums last year. And for George Russell, that's not something that you're used to seeing.
Nothing disappointed me more than George Russell last year. I was so big on him going into the season. I was convinced, like, the passing of the torch, he won the race. Lewis didn't win one. He's going to be the guy that takes him on. He's the young, talented guy, right? Kind of fell flat on his face. And after he had such a strong run his first year in Mercedes, of all of those, like I said, only 2 finishes outside the top 6. One of those was because he stopped to check on Yuki after the crazy wreck in the British GP, wasn't allowed to go because he got out of the car, whatever. And so, like, really only one race where he didn't finish inside the top, and it was all looking good. And then last year, just a really big disappointment. I mean, he wasn't that competitive. You didn't see him up there as much. You definitely can't bet the under. You're minus 250. That's just crazy. At plus 205, I could make enough of a case, throw a little coin on the over. If it's one where I have to pick a side, it would be the over because of the number. I think Russell's capable of winning multiple races. I think what we saw 2 years ago showed that. Maybe last year was more of a case of Mercedes just kind of missed. Maybe they come back and find something this next year, here in 2024. And Russell is the guy. I think that it's an easier case to get Russell to 2 wins than Lewis at this point, which is weird to say and sad to say. But I think that if they hit things on all cylinders, I think Russell can figure it out. I think he's young enough, he's talented enough to adapt quickly and get in there. So I wouldn't mind laying the over at the number at getting it at 2-1, but I'm not racing to the book to bet this by any means because it's still a tall task, I think, to get him to 2 victories, which is crazy because now we're basically saying that Mercedes probably won't even win 2 races this upcoming season, which you'd have said that a couple of years ago and people would have thought you were insane. So it is, again, but that's, we're going to get to that point with Red Bull eventually, right? Where it's like, do you remember when Max won all those races, right? Lewis has been there, and Lewis didn't win as many races in a season. Nobody won as many races in a season as Max has the last couple of years, right? But it all ebbs and flows, and eventually it won't always be Red Bull. It won't always be Max. I don't know if we're there yet, but yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, no, and we're still on the ebbing of this Red Bull team. It may not ebb nearly as much. Wait, is it ebb? Which side of the?
I don't know. It's flowing right now, I think.
I don't know. We're on the high. We're on the up elevator part of Mercedes.
The roller coaster ain't going down yet.
No, of Red Bull. Yeah, hold on. Let's just keep making noises so the people can know. 8th place was his average finish for George Russell last season, as we talked about. And really the only 2 times that he was on the podium, he was on the bottom step of that podium. So he only eked out 3rd places. And one of those was the last race of the season at Abu Dhabi. So Yeah, I mean, again, it's one that I'm just going to stay away from completely. But I think from a journalistic standpoint, we have to at least bring it to your attention that it's out there and that it is that's the numbers for it. All right, let's turn to Red Bull, but not the Red Bull driver you think. Let's talk about Sergio Perez, as our friends over there in the UK say. Listen, this number is set at 2.5. Sergio won two races last year. Sergio fell off the face of the earth more often than he actually did, especially in the second half of the season. Boy, you want to talk about a frustrating second half of the season for Perez, man. You start out, you're hot, you win some races, you think I'm about to give my teammate a run for his money this year, and then you fall into disarray and disrepair, and you start finishing in 20th and 19th and even 10th for a Red Bull is completely out of the question of where you should be finishing, only to wind up finishing 4th, 3rd, and 4th, which isn't bad. But again, for a Red Bull, that's not where you want to finish.
He's got to figure something out with qualifying because, oh, buddy, it was bad last year. I mean, he was not getting out of Q1 quite a few times, which is very uncharacteristic of Red Bull and a little scary. So this one, man, this one's another tough one because obviously, it's plus 140 on the over. It's 2.5. It's minus 170 on the under. Minus 170 again. It's pushing it. You want to lean under. I don't mind taking the over on this one. It's a Red Bull again. We saw him be able to hang with Max early in the season, right? Like when Checo, those couple of races earlier on where Checo got ahead of Max and Max had to come through the field, Max could never catch him. And so I think there's some maybe room for that. We know how fucking good he is on street courses. Multiple times he burned us late in the season. I think we bet on him at Vegas, bet on him in Mexico where he didn't even, he started good and then fucks it up in the first corner and wrecks and we don't get a really chance to see him. So I think that it's not that crazy to see him go for 3 wins. You've got to think, and we'll talk about Max here in a minute, obviously, you've got to think he regresses a little bit, right? How many wins? Max had 18 wins. Is that 19 wins? Yeah. 19 is a lot of fucking races to win. Does he get to 19 again? I don't think so. And so somebody has got to pick up the slack on some of these. And what better person to do it than his Red Bull teammate, right? Again, if Max is on the other end and gets caught up in a wreck here or there, maybe Checo's the one who takes advantage. Obviously, Checo is the of the two of them, the less consistent one, and he struggled with the qualifying and doesn't always get the good finishes. Where if Max is running at the end, Max is salvaging a decent finish no matter how bad the day has been. Or Checo, it's not the same. But just for Checo to win 3 races, I don't think is a crazy tall order with as far ahead as Red Bull's been. Again, maybe some other teams kind of catch up here. But I think you can, again, not racing to the books to take the over on this one, but one that I would probably lean towards the over on this one again, based on where the number's at. And I don't think it's a crazy stretch for him to win one more race than he won this past season.
Well, and that's the thing. If you're going to say that Red Bull's going to continue to be dominant and that Max Verstappen doesn't win one more or one of the races that he won last season, I think it's only safe to assume that his Red Bull teammate will pick it up. I mean,
yeah, if you're taking Max's 19 wins, you're only taking one away from him and giving it to his teammate. Is that a crazy case to make for plus 170? It's not really that much, that or plus 140 on the over. It's not that much of a stretch, really.
It's safer than taking a Piastri bet, honestly. And that's really where I'm at with this one too. And that you look at, and so we talked about the Red Bull standard, right? I mean, look, Perez's average and we joked that he didn't get the finishes that he wanted, but his average finish last season was 5.9. I mean, it other teams would kill. You think AlphaTauri would love to have a 5.9 average finishing position because that would mean that they're running up top. So, and so for Alfa Romeo, they'd love to have a 5.9 average finishing position. Obviously, it's not what Red Bull wants, but it's something they've got. We talk about Perez knocking on the door, right? Finished second at Spa, finished second in the Italian Grand Prix, second in Miami, second in Bahrain. So, again, these are all races that if something would have happened to Max, if Max would have hit some debris, if Max would have run over something, Perez is right there behind him to snatch the win. So I think you're right. I think the natural progression for him is to take it over, especially at plus money, because he's right there up front. Even third place sometimes can be a good spot if somebody goes off pit sequence, or you get a safety car and you can leapfrog the other guys because you're on, newer tires or a better strategy. When you're within the top 3 cars, it's easier for you to make those adjustments than when you're 5th or 7th or 10th. You can't make those adjustments. So yeah, I think the over is the play here. Again, it's just tough sometimes because that's a lot of wins for when the only other person to win more than one race was Sergio Perez, and he only won 2.
Yeah, and I guess looking back, 2022 he only won 2, 21 it looks like he won 2. So I guess he's not gotten, he's won 3 times in his career. That's his 6th win. So he's not gotten to 3 yet. So I guess, again, a case to be made. And I think that's why it's priced where it's at. But again, not one I'm running to bet, but I don't mind taking the over. And I was kind of off of Checo going into last season. I thought maybe, Ricciardo ends up replacing him. I still think Ricciardo could take that job next year, maybe, in 2025. Because I think this is his last year of his deal, which could entice him to race harder and tried more to win because he's running for a ride potentially. So, again, leaning towards the over, but not fully sold.
Oh, well, I guess that takes us to the main event, the man of the hour, the reigning world champion of 15 years, the winner of 19 of 22 races in the 2023 season. You know him, you love him, Max Verstappen. Cue the Danish and the Austrian anthem, because you're going to hear them quite a bit again next year. But the question is, Cody, the books think that he will get 15 wins this season. Again, last season he got 19, right? And for Max Verstappen, feel like he's going to win all 22 of them. Year before that, he got 17. The year before that, he got 18. So playing a little conservative here. The number for the over is -165. The under is at +135. We expect teams to get better, but do we expect them to get 7 wins better and steal 7 wins from Verstappen to get him to under 14.5?
Maybe we should have started at this one and then worked our case from there. But I mean, based on this, right, they're awarding some other people some wins. I mean, if you're taking away, basically they're saying he's probably going to win 15 here. So you're taking away 4 wins. So do you give 1 to Checo? Do you give 1 to Lando? Is it 2 to Charles? Like, there is some room in there, right? At -165, if you want to get down on a Max future, this might be the one. 15 races is a lot to win. He's done it 2 seasons in a row now. So there is that. But it's still, how many did he win in 21?
He won 18. He won 18 in 21, 17 in 22, 21 he won in 23. So
did he really? He only won. Did he win 15 in 22?
No, 17. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reading the podium numbers.
Okay.
10. I'm sorry.
Man.
10. Jesus Christ, Rod. There's a column here and it says podium, and I'm over here looking at So yeah, 10, 15, 19. I'm sorry.
Okay, 10 to yeah. So he hit this number 2 years ago. So he went from 10. I mean, you've got to think 10 is the baseline, right? Like, there's almost no way he wins less than 10. Does he get to 15? I mean, him getting to 15 2 years ago was like, whoa, like, this is a lot. And then obviously he just hammers the record out of the park last year at 19. I mean, or 18 still, or in 19, because he won. Jesus, how many races did you win last year?
Listen,
19?
don't follow my lead. All right, this is a case of I still can't read columns correctly. So, welcome to the F1 Gambling Podcast, where you just pray that I get the right.
It's the off season. It's fine.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean, you still, I think, got to go over. Like, he's in the peak of his career. Red Bull's at the top of their game right now. I mean, we might look back on this and laugh and be like, it was only at 14.5. Like, that it does seem just so low after what he's done the last couple of years. And I think -165 is an okay price to pay. Probably not going to load down the, all of my credit on there, but I think if you're going to take a side, that's it. And the under's only at +135, like, that's not very attractive at all. and again, it does specify, as we're looking at Caesars here, it does say 21 scheduled races must be run. Obviously, so that doesn't account for if he misses time or something like that. So yeah, I think you just got to go with the over. If you want a max future, minus 300 is a lot to pay on him winning the championship, or the constructors is even more, I think, than that. So this might be the one to get, minus 165. And it could go either way. You could sweat it out at the end of the season and be like, wow, he's not there yet. Or, 15 races in, you could be like, well, that was an easy cash. So it could go either way, but I think you definitely have to go to the over. It's just as good as he's been these last couple of seasons. He's done it 2 years in a row. Again, at some point, there's going to be that shift, and it's going to be like, okay, this is the year. Is that this year? I feel like it's going to keep trending the way that it's trending. And maybe a Piastri starts to end and he picks up 3 or 4 wins all of a sudden, and Max gets the rest of them or whatever. But I don't think we've seen enough out of anyone where it's like, okay, yes, Lando's going to come in and get 4 of these wins. So, and going through this number, I mean, there was nobody that we were confident on the over. I don't think there was one. Was there one driver where we're like, yes, absolutely hammer the over? No, it was like, I would take the over on this guy. I feel comfortable, but it was a lot of under, right? Because we think Max is going to win those races. So I think that the over is still the way to go with Max. I think that is just such a high number, 14.5. And he was only, I think it was 9.5 last year. Let me pull that article back up, which is, looking back, boy, if you took the over on that one, that was crazy. 9.5 over a minus 110. And yeah, my pick
probably told you to take that one at the time.
My pick was the over in the article, so that's a good thing. Well, there should be regression from 15, I said, and some other drivers should snag some wins. Max is up for the task and one of the best drivers in the world, and that remains the case.
And it did remain the case. So just for context, he went from May to September winning races. Like that was between Miami. Yeah. So May, June, July, August, 5 full months without losing a single race. Then he lost at Singapore and then went back after that from Japan on and ran the table. So, I mean, again, it's just, he only lost 3 races all season long. I think he's going to win at least 15 this year. Which drivers are going to take him away from him? Kind of hard to say, but at the very least, I think 15 is an attainable number for Max. No one's slowing him down. No one's slowing him down yet.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah,
it'll be fun once somebody does. It'll be fun to watch. Just because somebody will have caught him. Yeah, I don't know that it's yet.
Yep, I don't either. All right, that'll do it. That's all the win totals. So much for a short episode.
I was gonna say, hey, look at that short episode we cranked out. But like, that's the thing is, and that's like, you can't express it enough to people when they're like, why do you want to bet on a sport where the same guy wins every week? Like, there is so much more to talk about than just Max. And we spend a lot of time on Max is going to win a lot of races because, it's, but there is so much more to it. And there's still other ways to bet these. And are they all great numbers? No. And were we super confident on a lot of them? Not necessarily. It was more leaning, but some that we really like, some we're going to go place right now. Give me the Lando under for sure. That's one I'm hitting. Give me the Lewis under. I'm going to hit those 2 right now. But yeah, it was fun to talk about it. We're getting closer. We're almost there. Month and a half, pretty much. Close enough.
I would very much like to just watch F1 on TV now. Let's just get this going, shall we?
I miss those early morning Sunday wake ups to watch F1.
As do I. All right. Well, then the sooner we end this episode, the closer we are to another. So let's go ahead and put a pin in this one. Hopefully you guys got some usable information, which I know we did, so you probably did as well. So yeah, stick with us. We'll continue to come back. There's Formula E out there. Let's hit some Formula E.
Yeah, to dive into that.
Yeah, we've got some odds on that, so we'll cover that one here later, maybe next week as well, and give you some Formula E stuff to keep an eye on, because I feel like that's a market we need to watch in this podcast. I don't know if anybody else is doing it. Is anybody else doing it?
There's barely anybody doing this, so I don't think anybody's going that far.
All right, well then we'll go that far for you. You know why? Because you're D-Gens and we love you for it. So
yep.
All right, Cody. Well, as we close out this episode, let everyone know where they can find you out there in the world of the interwebs.
Yep. Follow me on the X at @Husker_Zeeb. Make sure you check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. A lot of fun episodes going on over there. And let's come back and do it again soon.
We certainly will. We'll do it with Formula E. I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio. Everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Check out my Royal Rumble article over there on Sportsbook Review. Get down with some WWE like you used to when you were a kid. I guarantee you it's still a lot of fun. The Rock's back. So CM Punk's back. Make you feel like a teenager all over again. So get down on that. All right, we'll see you again with some Formula E next week. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.